Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/SIBSB. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
Until I met my new best friend, all of my boys say I'm tripping. When they call, I'm not answering. They always get my voicemail, cause
Alex, are we rolling? We're rolling. Welcome to another episode of Sorry I've Been So Busy. This is the podcast where we talk to very busy people about what they're busy with. Sometimes we talk to not very busy people about what they are pretending to be busy with. Andrew Goldstein is here.
Wow, all in one breath.
Yes.
At Ange Gold on Twitter, ANGEGOLD. That's how you find me on Twitter.
I wanted to throw you off before.
That's
so you
all right.
didn't have time. Instead of
Switching
putting this
it up in
handle on.
2018.
Yeah, this is Matt Goldich speaking. At Matt Goldich, GOLDICH on Twitter. We're here in Showbiz Studios. Alex, good to see you, buddy. Check out all the other Showbiz pods. Go to the showbizstudios.com, YouTube page, Facebook page. They're on Twitter. BRIZ, SHOWBRIZ Studios. And they got a lot of great podcasts. And
We're part of a big growing
network.
Family.
Yes.
We need the ratings and reviews on our
I always forget to
iTunes
mention that. Please do.
page.
Yeah. And by the way, you can listen to us on iTunes. You can also listen to us on Stitcher. You can listen to us on, what's the other one?
An announcement.
Alex has an announcement.
Spotify, we're on there.
We're on Spotify. There you go.
You can find us on Spotify. You can make a playlist of all your favorite Sorry I've Been So Busy episodes.
Yeah, like the one that we did with what was the one that was very exciting right before New Year's that we had? Jared Freed was really fun.
Jared Freed was super fun.
We've had a bunch that were great. Do we have a busybody of the week? A fan that we want to shout out?
Like this our John Partridge episode just burning up.
Yeah,
people loved it. An old colleague of ours, Dan M. He was a producer on Boiling Points back in the day.
Sure.
Very funny guy. He wrote, "Listening now, it's like a rainbow on a cloudy day. Okay, back to rubbing a Maxim magazine on myself." So good luck with that, Dan.
What is that reference to? Was that something we talked about on the podcast?
No, I think he's just letting us in on what he stays busy with.
I wonder if did we talk about Maxim magazine on the Partridge episode?
I don't know, perhaps.
You know what's funny about the Partridge episode? I forgot to mention Linder sent me a message. Our former guest, Zach Linder, he said, "You had a great line that killed me on the pod this week. Where do you do your banking?"
Yeah. He texted me the same.
I don't even remember doing that. That's so funny.
Yeah. Kevin Miller told me that he loved when we were talking about shooting Prankville in Connecticut. Like it was supposed to be in the South.
Yeah.
We're shooting a prank show that was supposed to look like it was in the South, but it was in Connecticut. And I was like, yeah, we'd be like in an outdoor cafe and like Dick Ebersol would walk in. He thought it was so funny. One of my classic lines here on the podcast.
One of your classic lines.
I'm such a cut up.
So Dan M. is the busybody.
Dan M. Shout out to Dan M.
Andrew, before we get to our guest, what you been busy with?
Oh, man. Well,
we have a great guest coming up. I should have mentioned that right up top.
Such a fun guest.
Really interesting.
A different kind of guest for us.
Conversation, yes, but really great.
Well, look, a few weeks ago, I regaled everybody with my story about going to the urologist, and he told me to pull my pants down, and it was a very polarizing story, whether that was appropriate or inappropriate.
Yeah.
Well, as part of seeing a urologist, there are follow-ups, and I have a follow-up coming up, and part of that, I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but part of that is I had to go to a nondescript sort of lab on the Upper East Side to, clinical term, do it into a cup.
Sure.
It's part of seeing a urologist.
Yes.
They got to see how everything's doing, how
Yes.
everything's floating, everything's formulating in there. And I had heard about that experience many times in pop culture and thought about how odd it must be. But this was the first time I was doing it, and went there. And I got to tell you, the experience was pretty memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So get there. It's like 8 a.m. Check in with the nurse. Fill out some paperwork. Nurse I use loosely, by the way. So this lady, she takes me into collection 1. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting this. This was the least clinical room to be doing what I was supposed to be doing. There was a dusty 2-seat leather couch There was no sanitary pad, so basically, like I was my bare cheeks.
Bare cheeks.
At some point, your pants gotta cut.
Not the underwear too.
I mean, it depends. I'm just saying the possibility is there that you're sitting in the same place where like thousands of dudes have masturbated.
This is so interesting all of a sudden.
Okay, so I'm sitting. So there's
I've done this before.
2-seat
I did
leather.
it like
you just pull it through the underwear hole.
No, I was like hunched over a toilet or something.
No, you gotta sit and relax.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, 2-seat leather couch. Next to it are like biohazard boxes and like medical supplies. Like it's also a storage closet.
Yeah.
This place. And a couple dusty porno mags, paper towel dispenser, and like a 13-inch flat screen on the ceiling, coming out of the wall. So the lady, she's taking me through the process, the paperwork, showing me the cup, etc. This is how, when you're done, this is what you do, blah, blah, blah. And then her last piece of information was, when I leave the room, that when the door closes behind me, that a video will come on. Like, you don't put it on, it just comes on.
There's no choices.
So I'm like, oh, okay. And she says, okay, you can press stop on the remote if you want to. And she's like, okay. And she leaves. Literally, the second the door clicked, a disgusting porno pops on the screen, like in mid, like like giant cock immediately on the
plot.
screen. No, basically.
It
just comes on
no
right
story development.
right in the middle of like a major, from behind
scene, yes.
situation. And I was like, this is definitely where the guy before me stopped. This is clearly where he was like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
This is all like, he got all. Anyway.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very in your face.
And it was at an obnoxiously loud volume, and I was like, "What is the guy before me doing?" So I had to like quick, fidget for the remote.
Sure,
it was a whole thing.
Yeah. Like, doesn't anybody just quietly close their eyes and imagine anymore?
I know. Or just take out your phone.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. I am fascinated with the whole situation there, because at some point, somebody has to have a meeting with the staff about like which magazines we have to swap out the magazines. We need new magazines. What kind of videos go in?
So weird, Alex.
How does the decision making get made?
Do you have something to add here?
I think I just found my dream job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curating. Yeah, curating.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be the sperm. It wasn't this. It's not a sperm bank. It's a lab. They do blood tests, all kinds of stuff. But the curation.
Yeah.
How that gets done, like, do they have a staff meeting where they're like, what are people into?
Yeah. I'm imagining someone, we're going to draw your blood. We'll be right back in a second. They close the door. Just porn comes on for no reason. I'm here for a blood test. What? There's so many funny scenarios that go through your head when you're in there. Like, I would love to just sit in here for 3 hours and like see at what point do they come and like, is everything all right in there? I know, right? That is so funny.
Or like when she's in the room with you giving you the instructions, if like before she leaves, if I interrupted her and said, ma'am, do you mind staying? Like play that scenario out.
That's, you're getting kicked to another Quest Diagnostics.
Quest Diagnostics, exactly.
Did I name it?
That's basic. That's like that sort of thing.
Yeah, wow.
But they don't make it, it's not clinical at all.
It's all based on one guy's opinion of what he likes, and so then they make everybody like happy. Like
here's the thing about the room: if I had hooked up with a girl in there, I'd be disturbed at how like dirty and disorganized it was.
That's not where you want to be doing your business.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot more disturbing than pull your pants down.
Yeah.
But
it's in line with this whole couple month-long experience.
Yeah.
He tells me to pull my pants down, then he sends me to a lab where I'm watching another guy's climax scene.
Well, on that note, let's take a quick break, and then we'll get to our guest, who is...
But you didn't share. You didn't share anything.
What do you mean?
I don't know. You have experience in this realm?
Yeah. I get in and out as quickly as possible.
Right.
Yeah. I'm.
You're not relaxing?
No. No. Especially in my experience, these situations, they tell you to refrain from certain behaviors for the few days beforehand.
So you're ready to
That
go.
tends to move the process along.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm like, I generally do not even need any accompaniment.
You have a very vivid imagination.
I have a vivid imagination, or I treat it like it's a business. It's time to do some business.
It's a business transaction.
It's a business transaction, and it's like depositing a check.
Well, it is one kind of deposit.
Yeah, in some ways. Yeah.
All right, we'll get to our guests.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Let's take a quick break. For you, the listeners of Sorry I've Been So Busy, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. You can download any book you want. You could download Jensen Karp's book, Kanye West Owes Me $300, his great memoir about being a white teen rapper. We had Jensen on the podcast to talk about his book, and it was awesome, and he's a super interesting guy, so check that out. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/SIBSB. Again, that's audibletrial.com/SIBSB for your free audiobook. All right, we're back with our guest. We're very excited to have her here. It's somebody who I would say has been in my world for long time. My orbit, perfect term, for a long time. But we never really had like an official run-in until several months ago, and we had a great interaction. And I was like, well, you're coming on the podcast because you have such an interesting life. And you are the go-to photographer for comedians in New York City, I would say, and elsewhere. Mindy Tucker, welcome to the show. Welcome
Hi,
to
Mindy.
Sorry I've Been So Busy.
Hi, guys.
And so, yeah, anyway, let's just say you shot the cover photo and the inside photo for my album when it came out last year. Mm-hmm. And you were, it's such a strange thing, right? Because, do you feel like we must have met before around town, but I have no, specific recollections of us hanging out.
Yeah, so funny you should mention, because I couldn't remember either. I was like, why do I know Matt? I know him, and I don't remember how I know him or when I met him, but I know you. I know your name. I know what you look like. And one of the big things I'm working on right now is the archives.
Yes.
So from 2006 up until about 2010 or 11, the archives they're organized, but they're not metadata tagged, because in the earliest days of doing comedy photography, I didn't realize how expansive of an archive it would be.
Right.
And also there wasn't a way to archive things online. And so images were just going out in a small file size, because there wasn't a lot of place to store big file sizes online. And so I've been going through the archives picture by picture, which is excruciating.
Sure.
And I found one of you.
Oh, where was I?
It's, I moved it into a folder.
Yeah. Called Jews.
But there is one of you, and it's one of my favorite kind of entries into the archive, because you're just kind of in the background, very easily identifiable. And I want to say that it's Rififi.
Probably.
I want to say that's where the picture is, but after doing your record cover, maybe a month later, I saw it.
Yeah.
And there may be more, because I'm still not done with it. I want to say that photo is from 2008.
Sounds about right. Yeah. And we should say, you've been doing this. So 2006 was when you started basically photographing shows in New York.
Yeah. There was one show in 2005 that I shot on film, and I want to crawl into a hole and die whenever I think about it, because on the show was Aziz, Mulaney, Kristen Shaw, Dimitri Martin, and guys, I shot it with flash. With a flash.
That's so funny.
As in, during the comedian set, a flash went off, and I just want to scurry and hide somewhere.
That's So, do you have any recollections of anyone being like, "Hey, get that flash out of my"? I guess
Aziz.
At the time. Oh, really? He said something.
Oh, yeah, he
wow.
said something.
Golden Globe winner.
Golden Globe
Aziz
winner Aziz
Ansari.
Ansari. Yeah.
I'm so
What an amazing
sorry.
that was your first comedy show that you ever shot photographs of?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was, I believe it was 05.
Yeah, I can't even tell you. I mean, like, you know, I not even to talk myself up. I'm just like, I'm literally just like a working, right, and I can't tell you how many shows I was on in like those eras that had lineups like that, where it's like I can't even begin to understand that I was on a show like that. It's so strange. It's so strange.
That was happening in 2005.
Yeah.
On the regular.
Yeah.
In a basement.
And you brought an old-timey camera with the thing you put your head in.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so mortifying to think about, but I didn't. The camera that I had, it was a film.
Right.
It was a film.
What did
camera.
Aziz say?
I mean, it should be. I don't remember what he said, but he did like look directly at me
Right.
and say something, and the reason for the flash though is that I was broke.
Right.
And the camera, it was the only camera that I had, and it was the only lens that I had, and it was a dark lens. And so even shooting at like the highest ISO film and like the lowest
Right.
f-stop, it still wasn't enough for the light at
Yeah.
Siberia. And so
Oh, was it Siberia?
Siberia.
Which just sounds like it's dark.
Yeah. Well, it's in
If you've never been there, I've been there.
It was in a subway station.
Yeah,
right?
it was next to Grand Central.
It was
like a catty
No.
corner.
I thought it was Times Square.
No, it was Times Square. It was a
I always remember it by Grand Central.
It was a bar that was in. It was the Port Authority or Times Square.
Port
It was-
Authority.
Yes.
Not
It was-
Grand Central,
It was,
sorry,
It was
Port
a bar.
Authority.
It was in the Port Authority of subway
It was in the Port Authority
station.
bathroom.
And it was like.
No, it was aptly named Siberia.
Yeah. But it was like it was a really cool dive bar, and they used to have comedy
Yeah.
shows there. Yeah. And I remember, Rebecca Tingley used to host a show. Who was the show that who was a host of it?
It was a show for my friend Carol Hartzell.
Sure, yeah. Okay, yeah, so she was right. So how did you how did you get started? You've always been interested in photography, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So you've always taken photographs.
Well, there is a very specific moment that it started.
Okay.
I went to school for painting, and I was in art school to get a degree in painting. And at the time, the way you got into grad school is you had to send 20 slides. And I didn't know how to take the slides of my paintings because they were large scale paintings. They were like 6 feet by 8 feet. So that's kind of a lighting problem. And I didn't know how to take slides, and I desperately needed to get into grad school. And so you have to take electives even, And so I took a photography elective to try to learn how to take slides of my paintings.
Wow.
And at the time, I was in Alabama, and this was before digital cameras. And so
Alabama just got digital cameras.
Yes, they just got
like a year ago.
Yeah. Right after the election.
Yeah.
so you couldn't rent a camera. You had to buy it.
Right.
And so just for this elective, I had to buy
Tommy
a
Wiseau.
camera.
Wow.
And then because I had a camera that I just owned, I started photographing my friends
Yeah.
And-
in Alabama.
in Alabama. And the thing that's absolutely fascinating to me is that the very first photos that I took, the very first ones, are pretty much the photos that I take today and that made my career.
Wow.
And like my very first instinct with the camera, the very first roll of film I shot, if you put it next to what I do at a comedy show, it's like you can see it.
Wow.
You can see like the impulse and what I was after.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I definitely thought the story was going to be you sent in the slides, and they were like, "Well, the paintings are shit, but the pictures of them are very good. You took very nice photos of them."
Rewrite the story.
Yeah. So then you get interested in photography, and then do you move to New York to become a photographer, or do you move to no?
No, I didn't mean a lot of it. I didn't mean to do. I did get into grad school, and I did get there, and it was like an even split between the faculty at my undergrad and at my grad school. Some of them were like, you're wasting time with photography. You should be spending time painting. And then I went to grad school, and they said, you're a terrible painter, but your photos are beautiful.
Wow.
But I will never forget, and I'm not going to say his name, but I will never forget a critique with a visiting professor who told me, because he looked at the Montevallo work, the Alabama photos,
Sure.
the very first ones I'd taken. And he looked at those and he said, why should anyone be interested in your friends and family? And he like made fun of this whole body of work that I did as an undergrad. And he was like, basically you have no spirit for it or whatever. And that was his artist visit during the day. And then later that afternoon, he gave his artist talk, and it was photos of his friends and family.
What a dick.
Oh, my God.
And
Roast him.
Yeah. And so
His name, Roy Moore.
Sorry to do this. Alex said talk a little closer to the mic, just so we
hey,
know.
Alex.
Yeah, okay.
Is that better?
Yeah. Wow, what a jerk. I can't believe it.
Wait, so where in Alabama are you from? Real quick aside. Do you know Andy Stuckey is what I'm getting at?
Part of Stuckey and Murray?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like the mayor of Alabama in New York.
Dothan, right?
Yeah,
He's from Dothan.
He's from Dothan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know him pre?
I didn't know him in Alabama, but Carol did some Stuckey and Murray videos, and so I knew of them because
Right.
she worked on, I want to say, the tuxedo.
Yeah, the Fuxedo.
Yeah. Carol worked on a video for that.
Past guests, Stuckey. I wonder if those are our only two Alabama guests. I'm trying to remember if we've ever had any other Alabama.
Perhaps not, but you never know.
Yeah. Jeff Sessions we did have on.
We did have little Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, we made him, we got him high.
Yeah.
What
it's
an
pretty cool.
embarrassment.
I know, right? So you moved to New York to go to grad school here.
I went to grad school in Connecticut.
Okay.
And my plan was, is basically just trying to do one thing at a time. And the first thing I had to do was get out of Alabama.
Sure.
Which I did in the days before the internet, so it was actually a difficult thing to do. And so I got a scholarship to go to grad school.
Nice.
And so that was step one, is like, don't even try to figure out what the next step is. Just get the fuck out. And so I did that. And then once I got into grad school, I hated it so much.
Right.
But my thought was, okay, well, get your master's and then you can teach.
Right. You can go anywhere.
Yeah.
You go to Mississippi.
Yeah, explore your horizons.
But the thing that bothered me, I still want to teach. I really do. I would like to kind of start now because, but at the time when I graduated, I didn't want to become a professor because in both undergrad and grad school, whenever I would ask a professor, okay, but how do you actually do it? Like, how do you actually...
They don't want to tell you because you become competition?
No, it's not even that. They never had done it.
Right.
They couldn't answer the question, okay, but seriously, like, how do you have time to make the work and eat? And their answer for everything was applying for grants or going into teaching. And I was like, well, I don't want to go into teaching until I have a practical thing that I can tell somebody. And my way won't be their way, but I at least don't want to get up there and tell people how to do something unless I've gone out and I have some insight into how to do it, you know? And so I left graduate school really lost because I knew I didn't want to teach. I didn't feel like I should yet.
Right.
And I also knew I didn't want to paint full time.
So what were you doing every day in New York? Like, what was your day job?
I mean, well, the first, I believe, 3 years in New York was just about survival. I did do stuff. I did paint. I did like a series of 4 or 5 paintings around that time, and they're really detailed and they look like photos, so they took a long time to do.
A hint, a clue of what your future would bring, yeah.
And I did do little photo series, but I was so broke I couldn't afford to get the film developed.
Wow. Not a problem in this day and age.
No.
And so the first Yeah, it was about 3 years, was just bouncing from temp job to temp job.
Yeah.
And just trying to stay here.
And then at some point, Carol, who you're friends with, was like your close friend growing up from Alabama, started producing comedy shows, and she asked you to come start photographing them.
Yeah, that was in 2005, and then I believe it was 2006 she started a show at Rififi. And at that time, I had gotten a job as a secretary, but it was this huge step up because even though I was a temp, I had the same job for 3 years, and I got little itty-bitty raises, and I finally was able to buy a digital camera.
Oh, wow.
In February of 2006. So that's really when the archives start.
Yeah.
Is being able to get that camera.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was a huge deal.
And you basically documented this whole era in comedy of like every single person who's successful now coming through and doing these shows, whether it's stand up, and then you also did you shoot like UCB like improv shows and stuff too, or just stand up stuff there?
I didn't, and it's not there's two groups that don't show up in the archives a lot, and one is UCB Improv, and the other is like official comedy venues.
Yeah.
Like a club or whatever. And the reason for that is in the earliest days, first of all, the photos weren't good, and I didn't feel comfortable approaching people and saying, let me come to your show and take my mediocre photos. What I was getting out of being at the shows that I was invited to was I was working on my skill set. And so I had this day job as a secretary, and then I would work on...
It's funny that like the comedians were working on their material, and then the photographer was also working on her material.
It's
she
very
was
parallel.
working on her craft.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So there's people like...
You were an open mic photographer.
I very much was. Yeah, there's people that... Baron Vaughn, going back through the archives, I believe Baron Vaughn is the first person that I did what is now referred to as a Mindy, one of those after show pictures where he's like on the stage or whatever.
Your name has become like a noun and a verb.
And how long were you shooting?
You got a Mindy?
You got Mindy.
You got a Mindy.
How long were you shooting shows before people started asking you to like take their portraits and stuff, like for their headshots and for their album covers and things like that?
Well, my first headshot client was John Mulaney.
Oh, wow.
And I also want to, John, I'm so sorry, because his first headshots, I hadn't done them ever before. I'd been taking...
Did he do a wacky pose?
Well,
he was wearing different ties.
If you Google search John Mulaney head scratch, you'll find the picture. Sorry, John.
Oh, I know that picture.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been as bad as you think, because like
it's out
2,000 people after that asked you to do the same thing. So if it was bad, they wouldn't have. No, I'm saying asked you to take their photo. I'm just saying, they would, if it was as bad.
Cool. Mulaney's a huge star.
What a great first one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I did have a lot of experience photographing my friends in natural light. Like, that's how the earliest work started.
Yeah.
But there was a huge gap from because I did a photo a day while I was still in college when I was doing the work in Alabama. And, but then I went to grad school, and they said that work was stupid and bad. And so it wasn't until I got into kind of stabilized in New York and got into doing comedy that I went back to that original thread. So at the time I did Mulaney's first headshots, it was picking up something that I hadn't done for 5 or 6 years, which was just, spending time with a person and trying to figure out what looked best on them,
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously I'm glad that you got your practice on him, because mine look great. I was happy. At that point, you've been doing it for like 10, 11 years.
Headshots are insane, especially actor ones where they're like, they have the series in different characters.
Yeah.
Like you'll see a character actor headshot, and he's like, different hairstyles and a weird mustache and a goofy pose.
Yeah. What a strange phenomenon to even exist in the world, headshots. Like,
so
it's just
strange.
such a, like, I mean, Do you take them for actors too, like, or just comedians mostly?
Most of my client base is comedians, but
Yeah.
I do get a lot of actors these days.
Yeah.
Which honestly is a lot. It's different, and most of the time it's a little easier
Oh, yeah.
because
They're used to it.
Yeah, they're used to it. Comedians, and I think it's a really understandable
Yeah.
thing, and that's why I got my own studio
Yeah.
and set aside all this time.
It's very awkward being photographed, although I would say you've made me very comfortable. It was a very, you made what would normally be a very awkward experience be very,
She's like, Matt, remove your
thank
clothes.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, disrobe. Like, you must have crazy stories from the time, from, like, being at shows where, like, insane things happened, and, do you remember anything from those days?
Well, some of the things I remember, especially from Rififi, is that older versions of the Canon camera, they fix this now, but the shutter is really loud. And so if someone was bombing, you really
You just hear your shutter.
yeah, you really couldn't take a photo because in that small room it would just reverberate, and I mean everyone would truly hear it. And
The crickets were in your camera.
Yes, exactly.
yeah, so the earliest days were trying to figure out how to take photos of, and for me the two toughest ones were Todd Barry and Jim Gaffigan, because their voices are so low.
Yeah.
And they're getting laugh breaks, but the laugh breaks are really short because they're going to move on to the next joke. And so the amount of time that you have to actually get a photo of them at that time, with the way the Canon lenses were, that was so difficult. And then if someone was, on the other hand, if someone was bombing, there are several people that I didn't take photos of them at all in the early days at Rififi.
No wonder I'm not in the archives more.
You're very like,
I was bombing all the time. Yeah, there we go.
And I remember someone who bombed in front of their mom,
Oh, my God.
and there were only like 4 people in the
Yeah.
room, and they bombed in front of their mom, and I'll never forget it because I got to meet her afterwards, and I really loved the guy, and I didn't take a photo at the time because I felt that that was the most compassionate thing.
Yeah.
And now I wish I had, because he's doing really well.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, eventually everybody's going to bomb.
was there a light bulb moment where you're like, wait a second, this could be my niche. This is like in Better Call Saul when he figures out that elder law is his,
Yes. Yeah.
is like a thing
Right.
that he could thrive in.
There is actually a moment, and that's July, I forget if it's 31st or
Wow.
30th of 2008, and that's when Rififi closed. And what happened was Mulaney actually got in touch with me that afternoon and said, they're closing Rififi, we're putting on a big marathon show, it should be a good time, you should come out. And he wanted photos of that blue wall.
Yeah.
And so I went, and it was an insane show. I forget if it was 25 people, 30 people, but it went on and on and on and on. And pretty soon, and on that night, I met Jeremy Levenbach, and he was just about to start Whiplash at UCB. And he asked if I would come and shoot that. And so Whiplash, me covering Whiplash, and several other shows kind of sprang up because of that Rififi thing. And I think that Rififi closing was the beginning of a lot of stuff and the end of a lot of stuff. And I was literally there in the mix of that. And so I do think that was kind of, I know that was the moment where I started realizing I need to really carefully name things and be able to find a photo. And I think before that I hadn't realized I was building an archive.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's amazing. I mean, and that, sprang, I mean, even when it closed, though, that sprang up like 10, 20, 30 different venues where they were all trying to like replicate that. So that's like a lot of, shows to shoot. So, yeah. Do you have any more questions about that, or do you want to get into like...
No, I just think it's so... it's funny. You're comedy adjacent, but like in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And you're like the go-to.
You are. I mean, like, there's nobody else doing it, really. So, like, once you become known for that... I mean, I'm sure there's people taking photos of shows, but, like, on their iPhone.
But, like, now, all these years later, are you just, like, venue to venue to venue every single night? I mean, we'll get into it with your day, but you're, like, out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm...
That's, like, with regularity.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to keep it somewhere between 1 to 2 shows a week. And sometimes there's just weeks where that's not possible, and it's every night.
Right. Well, that's a perfect transition to get into your day.
Yeah. Is there a day recently that was, you were going to talk about the day what was the show you shot recently?
50 First Jokes.
Oh, yeah. So this is an annual thing that's every year where
50 comedians go up and tell one joke each, correct?
Yes. Okay, so this was, what day was it last week? It was
Friday.
Friday, okay. So what time did you wake up?
9.
Alarm?
Oh, I had 3.
3 alarms?
I had 3.
On the phone?
I had phone, and then do you guys know about online alarm clock?
No.
Oh, it's great. It's just a website, onlinealarmclock.net, but it has a really ugly sounding alarm, and you need to make sure the volume's up on your computer, but you can set all your computers to go off on that. And so I did timer on my phone and also an alarm on my phone.
But... So if your laptop and it's closed, it will still make the noise?
Not if it's closed.
It has to be open and like running? It could be asleep.
I think it can be asleep, yeah.
Copy. Okay.
Do you do this because you have a hard time getting out of bed?
Yes. I am by nature a night person.
Oh, I see.
Which is great for
so
what I do.
So on a day you have to get up at 9, it's because you've been up late and you just have a hard time.
I just, something in me turns on around 2 p.m. every day.
Okay.
That's.
So 3 alarms, you get up, and then...
What happens next?
Are you snoozing?
I snoozed, and then for the last couple of weeks, I have been rewatching Monk.
Really?
Wow.
That's a good one.
I love it. It used to be on Netflix. It's now on Amazon Prime.
In bed?
Tony Shalhoub.
Or you...
You're shaloobing it up in bed.
Shaloobing it up.
That show is so beautiful and it holds up so well, and I just love it so much. And Willie Nelson has an episode. And
oh, wow.
Snoop Dogg has an episode.
Yeah.
Gina Rowlands.
I can't say I've ever watched Monk, but now
I
you're
did
making me
because
want
I
to.
took a screenwriting class at the Pit taught by Dan Dratch, who was a writer on Monk.
Oh, okay.
And so I started watching the episodes.
Yeah. Everyone liked it.
Shout out to Dan Dratch.
Yeah.
We should get him on the pod.
Yeah.
Should reach out.
So I woke up, had coffee in bed while watching Monk, and then
Coffee in bed. So you go to the kitchen, get it, and get back in bed?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Is it in a mug?
I have to sweet talk myself to, like, begin the process.
Right.
And so that's how I, like, ease into it. Yeah.
In a mug?
In a mug.
Safety cup?
Big mug that
Big
my
mug.
boyfriend gave me because I had small coffee mugs, and he was like, honey.
Friends?
Like the Ajit Pai Reese's mug, the giant novelty. Yeah. Okay, so it's so interesting because once I have a sip of coffee and I'm out making coffee and drinking,
You're out.
The urge to get back in bed is not something that I have.
I'm always looking for a reason to get back in bed.
Okay, so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're easing into the day, watching Monk, having coffee in bed. Okay. Then what happened? What was next last Friday?
Well, I have been working on a book, and it's a non-comedy, pay-the-bills book, and it's of dancer photos.
Oh.
And it's like an instruction manual. And currently we're at, I think, 360 photos that had to be edited.
Photos that you took of dancers in your studio or in dance?
In my studio.
Okay.
In their dance studio.
Yeah.
In my studio, my photo studio. And so I'm really happy with how the photos came out, but I was desperately trying to meet a deadline and have it done before I left for 50 First Jokes that night. That's why the early wake-up time.
Sure.
And also that's why the watching Monk, because the process of editing is so boring and tedious, and you just kind of have to have something.
Yeah.
You're editing while watching Monk.
Yeah.
Got
Oh,
it.
I
Yeah.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just your background.
I hope Tony gets a thank you in the book.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're editing photos for a while. For the dancer book. Did you meet your deadline?
Yes.
Yay! Good job. Nice
Yes.
work. All right. And then what's next? When you finish doing that, you get something to eat at some point. You brush your teeth. You shower. What's happening?
So I finished in enough time to have a half-hour nap.
Oh wow!
Well played.
Andrew likes it.
Yeah. And
Do you set an alarm for the nap? This is a big
again,
deal.
2 alarms.
Yeah, you got
two
to.
alarms. Yeah. And
Under the covers, over the covers.
under.
What time
So
is
full on
Treat
nap.
yourself.
what time
Full
is
on
this
nap.
at this point?
I think it was around 4:30.
Wow. Have you eaten anything at this point during the day?
So funny you should ask. I had cooked in bulk 2 days before that, and on this particular Friday. So the problem was I cooked a turkey meatloaf,
Wow.
and I ate.
I want to come over.
I ate the last bit of it as I was finishing the edit. So as I went down for the nap, I was like, uh-oh, because I didn't have any more food prepared. And I was going to have to start getting ready for
Did
the
you do
show.
the top with the
and-
ketchup or what?
Oh wow.
Well played. Good Southern girl you are.
Yeah.
Nice. So as you're going down for the nap, your last thought
We're
as your head
talking
hits,
about her like she's a baby. As you were being put down for a nap.
as your head is hitting the pillow, you're thinking, I have nothing to eat when I wake up.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm like, I did so well. You know what I mean? Because I'd had 2 edit days during the storm. And I was like, oh, this is
It's
so...
like food rations. You
Yeah.
know you're going
Yeah.
to be in for the storm. You got your work.
Yeah, and I prepared everything, and I was like, oh, this is really great. I'm not breaking focus at all. I've got
Yeah.
food prepared. I'm not going outside. This is fantastic. Work. And then I realized, uh-oh.
You finished it.
So you wake up from the nap, and then what
Screaming.
happens?
She wake up. Ah! What am I going to eat?
Yeah.
So then I wake up from the nap, and I'm like, well, you're going to have to do a protein bar. There's just no getting around it. That's going to be your dinner. And so I hop in the shower and do hair and makeup and call a car service for the show.
You have a lot of gear you got to lug, or what's the deal?
Yeah, that's why the car service.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got
Tripods? Lenses?
it's like the camera bag is just heavy enough
Yeah.
to make going on the subway and doing long walks, especially in the cold
Yeah, that would
when there's
stink.
ice.
Oh, in the
and-
cold, no way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the big deal with the
You ever get on
camera.
the subway and the guy's got the cello?
Oh, I was just
I
gonna
hate
say
the-
Jello.
I hate the cello
You
guy.
took the words right out of my mouth.
hate the cello.
Oh my god, that's so
Who are
funny.
these people? They think that...
Yeah, I mean, I guess cello doesn't pay well enough to take a car. Although here, I guess you can't. You know what it is? You can't really fit a cello in a car.
If I was an Uber driver, I'd drive right by the guy if he had the cello.
I know, right?
There's
Yeah.
people with their cellos.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so funny.
Okay, so it's a car service.
Yeah, car service.
Not an Uber situation, like a car service.
I hate Uber, and everyone should download the Curb app. Uber is very
Curb
bad
is for
New York
taxis,
City.
right?
Curb
Yeah.
is for
Oh, yeah.
taxis, and so if you get a Curb, you're basically making sure that money goes to a medallion taxi driver. And Curb is also an invaluable resource when you are in Brooklyn or Queens.
Yeah.
yeah, when it's
because
not
you can
as-
hail a green cab.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a nice PSA for
There you go.
Yes.
support your local cab driver.
Yeah,
Uber
yeah,
is going to be very bad for New York.
Yeah.
Very, very bad.
Yeah. The problem is, everything's bad. There's nothing good. Sorry. No, I mean,
What do you, one big bag or like 3 bags?
For most shows, it's one big bag. Yeah. And I'm a naturally incredibly clumsy person.
Right.
Like something is just messed up with my center of gravity. I don't know what it is, but I fall like
Oh, no.
a lot. And so if there's ice out, that's Mindy in a car service.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm carrying my
Sure.
livelihood, and the chances that
it makes complete sense.
Yeah, the chances that I will fall in the snow are just astronomically high.
So the show starts what time? And what time do you get
What
there?
was the venue?
The Bell House.
Got it.
Okay, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like the hot venue right now.
It's very
Union
good.
Hall, the
Yeah.
Bell House.
Yeah, so I left the house I left a little early because I was worried about the snow.
Sure.
I think I left the house around 6:30.
Yeah. And how long before the show do you arrive at the show?
For shows like that, I try to get there pretty early.
Yeah.
And in this case, there was trouble because of the snow, and I didn't get there in time for doors.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get to save myself a seat. So that meant I had to shoot the whole show standing up and roving.
Yeah.
Which sometimes is good for coverage because
Yeah.
you get a bunch of different angles. But 50 First Jokes is particularly difficult because you've got a minute to get a good shot of someone.
Wow.
So it's 50 comedians, 50 jokes, minute each. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And did you get all 50? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And when you're photographing a show, are you enjoying the show? Are you laughing? Are you just focused on your job?
Yeah, that's tough.
Do any of the bits resonate? Like little.
Yeah. Can you remember anything that took place, or are you just so focused on what you're doing?
It's on the one hand, I am so acutely attuned to the performer in that moment.
Right.
And I can tell you things like how they feel
Yeah.
and how it went for them. And I'm so highly engaged in that. But I would have a difficult time telling you
Yeah.
the
What they're
joke.
talking about. Are you navigating blocking audience members?
Funny you should ask.
Like, is that part of your...
Yes.
I would be consumed with,
Yeah.
I don't want to
I
bother
am-
this guy. I'm in this guy's way. Sorry, sir.
I am absolutely too shy and too polite to be a photographer because that's all I think about.
Yeah, I'd be consumed with it.
And there are so one of the reasons I alluded to earlier that comedy clubs aren't in the archive a lot, one of the reasons is that they have waitresses who are trying to make a living and
Yeah.
they're navigating a really small room and
Right.
you're getting in their way.
So you'd be in the way of the spectators and the waitresses. And
Yes.
the waitresses would get surly and mad.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever I do something in a comedy club, if I've been asked to do something, I will literally talk to the wait staff and ask,
Where should I be?
Where's the best place for you? And several years ago, the comedy community bought me a telephoto lens, and the whole entire reason that I needed a telephoto lens was so that I could move from like the front row of a comedy show.
Comedy community never bought me anything.
Right. I know. Yeah. A one-way ticket out of town. That's
Yeah,
all I ever
hey-o.
got. Yeah.
That's what they did, yeah.
But the telephoto lens, the whole entire reason for it
Right,
was
so you
so
could
that
be farther back.
yeah, so that I could be less intrusive. And most shows, I'll usually try to get a seat maybe like the third row back on an aisle and maybe try to do most of the coverage from one position
Right.
where the only person I'm bothering is the person sitting next to me. And even that, I'll try to keep my elbows down and,
Right.
and then I might cause a distraction by running back and like around and maybe getting a shot from the center of the room from the back or something. But there are definitely shots that I don't get specifically because I can tell maybe the performer's having a difficult time, and if I get any closer, I'm going to distract them.
Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe the audience is kind of dead. I do get to say this. There is such a thing as a bad audience. Comedians maybe don't get to say that because you should always be
Right.
funny no
Yeah.
matter what. But there are some audiences that are just like, why are you guys here?
Yeah.
And so if I feel like that's going on, I won't move around the room as much.
Yeah.
And it'll compromise coverage sometimes.
Are you conscious when you're taking a photo of like when the punchline is, so you don't try not to like interrupt it or whatever?
Yeah, for years and years, I have said that the name of my book was going to be Waiting for the Laugh.
Oh, yeah.
But then I think Marin just came out with,
Waiting for the punch. Yeah, that's so funny.
But that
You
is...
should sue him.
Yeah.
You should sue Mark Maron.
But yeah, so much of what I do is waiting for that moment when the room is quiet when the room is loud because there's been a punchline, but it looks like the comedian is still talking. There's a little Quicksilver moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you trying to put together a book right now?
Yes, and it is killing me. And I have a lot of procrastination and avoidance about it.
A lot of that's why you're rewatching Monk. Yeah.
Yeah.
On but off topic, the upset people. We're like the most photographed like generation now because everybody with their phones and are you just in your regular casual life? Are you taking pictures on your phone? Do you take pictures of food? Are you amazed with the technology in the phone? How, people don't even use digital cameras anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I have like a love-hate relationship with it because, for instance, in the earliest days of being a photographer, I'm talking like 1996, 97, I remember going to music shows. And if you had a camera at a music show, the crowd would open up and let you down front because they would see the camera. And as long as you were nice about it, they just kind of had this sense of like, well, if they have a camera there, they must be like kind of serious
there was an
about
understanding.
it. Yeah. And I was always so conscientious of get the moment and leave. And don't disturb what's happening.
Yeah.
So some of my earliest concert photos, there'll be literally 10 shots because I got down front, I got in position.
Hit it and quit it.
And then I didn't want to disturb what was happening.
Yeah.
And that is a shocking thing to think about now because one of the reasons that I moved into comedy was that I had been shooting music. That's one reason Carol asked me to come and do her stuff at Rififi is I'd been working with like a lot of bands and stuff. And I began to enjoy going to shows less and less and less because you would get down to the front row and there would be literally 10 people with digital cameras photographing.
Yeah.
And even if the band had asked me to be there specifically to take photos, the people behind me who were just trying to enjoy the show, how are they supposed to know the difference between the person the band had asked to be there and the...
You're just blending in.
Yeah, and it just... I felt like it was ruining the live experience, and...
Yeah, everybody's got their phone up now.
Yeah.
So when the show ends, when 51st Jokes ends, what do you do after that?
Do you mingle?
So I try to take as many portraits as I can. And I also try to, if someone starts talking to me, like especially something like 51st Jokes, my friend Robert Dean refers to it as the comedy Christmas party. Because it's everyone coming together. We've been with our families. And it's everybody seeing each other like, oh, we made it back. We're here. And it can be very joyful. And so I try to... If someone's telling me a story from their holiday or something, I try to, put the camera down and listen. But I'm also trying to get as many...
Candids.
Yeah, I'm trying to get as many portraits as I can, to serve as many people as I can in one shot kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And so, and then you have it. Can you have a drink? You have a drink after the show, or you go home?
I used to, and then I accidentally quit drinking.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the slowest, weirdest thing.
One too many slips, falls.
No, I used to really enjoy after a show,
Yeah.
I would hang out and have like a Jack and Coke with everybody.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
Yeah, and I loved that. And then I had a day job for years and years. I worked as a photo editor. And in the last few years of having that day job, my photo career was picking up. And so I went from having like a day off a week, you know, to for like calendar year 2014, I think I had 5 days off for the entire year.
Wow.
And there were a couple of years that were like that, where there was no not a vacation at all. Even when I went home for the holidays, I would have to work for my day job. And there were times when I was literally working on Christmas Day. And then the days that I would have quote unquote vacation time from my day job, I would literally only use vacation days if like Comedy Central called me in for a project.
Yeah.
And so the schedule got so packed that I never had any days where I could be like a little bit tired in the morning or something. And so I started staying after the shows less and less.
Yeah.
And I started drinking less and less. And then I met my boyfriend, and he's never drank
Wow.
Right.
ever in his whole life.
So why start now?
And so when he and I started dating and we would go and do things, I would take, a couple of hours out of my schedule to, go out on a date with him or something. And we didn't drink then. And
It just sort of happens.
yeah, it was the craziest thing. Yeah.
And then when you go home at night, do you do more work or are you usually done? Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
You said you're a night owl, so that makes
There's
sense.
a lot of work to
Yeah.
get done. Yeah, it's, for something like 50 First Jokes, it's, you're talking about, I think the count this year was about 4,000 photos.
Wow.
So you've got to narrow down those pictures. And then,
So you get home and go right into looking at them?
yeah, you have to.
Yeah,
Because
you'll forget sort of the moment.
No, because people are expecting those photos.
right.
And
Okay,
if I don't
demand.
get them, like when I leave here, I'm going home to put them out to social. And if I can guarantee you that if it's any later than 1 or so this afternoon, the emails will start. Hey, just wondering.
Right.
Well, that's a packed day. So there.
Well, we have one more hour of this podcast.
Yes, and then we'll get you home. Yeah. And so, what time you finally get to bed that night?
Oh, well, that night, my boyfriend came to meet me at the show. And then we took a car to a favorite little restaurant of ours.
Yeah.
And we came in just under the wire.
Yeah.
They
Love that.
They close at midnight, and we got there at like 11:24.
Yeah, you got to keep them open.
Yeah.
And we had a little late dinner,
Yeah.
and that was good because I hadn't eaten anything real since about 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Except for some
Turkey meatloaf and a power bar.
yeah,
we know.
power bars, yeah. And then I went home and edited for about an hour. So I think I got into bed at maybe 2.
And then watch more Monk, and then just go to sleep. Yeah.
The next day, more Monk.
Yeah. Nice. Do you have anything else, or should we do the?
No, let's get to the blow off.
Yeah. Have you blown anybody off recently?
Some, professionally or personally, hey, can you come photograph me here? Whatever. I don't know. Like,
And how did you do it?
I blew people off all the time.
All right, good. This is
All
what
the
we like.
time. Yeah. What I do is I give people a for real option, which is I will be editing at such and such time. If you want to come over and hang out with me during the edit instead of me watching Monk all day, please come over. But it's a true, genuine offer because I always edit faster.
But most people would be like,
Yeah,
do that.
exactly. Yeah, but if someone wants to like go to dinner or something, I don't blow them off so much as just immediately reject it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You're honest.
Yeah.
You're
That's
honest
good.
and you give a not so pleasant alternative, like B plan.
I will say you're one of the. I appreciate you've been one of the most responsive. We've been trying to get you on for a while and figure out a date. And in terms of like me texting you and be like, hey, do you want to do the podcast? And you'd be like, I am busy with this until this date. And after this date, I will be much more. And I'm like, it's really like very detailed and honest. And it just, as opposed to people who just like never write back or like, hey, maybe some other, whatever time,
Yeah.
Do you keep a calendar?
Oh, I live off of
Is
it.
this an electronic calendar or a analog, like a notebook sort of thing?
I used to do analog, and now I live off my Google Calendar.
Yeah.
Right.
I just completely live off of it. So someone might email me, want me to do a show. If I email them back and say, you're in the calendar,
You're in the calendar.
you're in the calendar.
So you don't double book too often, like by accident.
No, but now you might not be able to get in the calendar for like 3 months. And I have shown up to shows before where people are like, oh my God, thank you so much for coming. And they've forgotten that they booked me because it was like 3 months before. But
Well, that means business is good.
yeah, but like that's how I book. Yeah.
That's good.
This has been so awesome. Thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to plug, mention where people can find you?
Or your photos.
You can follow me on the Instagram with reservation. A name I wish I could redo, but we do things when we're young.
Yeah, well.
And they follow
But people
us
know it
forever.
now, so
Yeah.
you don't want to change it.
Yep, so that's
And
it.
Twitter too, right? With reservation. Okay, and that's a
You
good.
gotta send. We want to see this Matt Goldich picture. That
Oh,
we
yeah.
found.
Yeah, we'll post it
Because we
That's
could
a good-
post it with the posting of the podcast
Yeah.
if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
And honestly, like anybody who has photos that they need taken for the comedy purposes, whether it's a live show or portrait, I don't need to recommend you
Yeah.
because you're
You gotta
literally
get-
already the go-to person. But like
The Mindy.
Yeah, you got to get the Mindy.
You gotta get the Mindy.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
And
I picture this Goldich photo. It's like James Dean, like he's up against the wall smoking, but I know
Right.
it's not that.
no, it's not. It's definitely. It's more like I'm picking up my wallet that fell down and spilled the stuff that fell out of it. or
But he has a
something.
bloody
Yeah.
nose and he's attending
Yeah.
to it.
And seriously, this has been like one of the really more interesting conversations we've had because it's like something you're the first photographer we've talked to.
It's
and
not
like,
the comedy schedule. Also, we had Trayvon Free on. Did you know he's quite the amateur photographer?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, I think I've seen him around with
Shout
a
out to
camera.
Trayvon Free, on the way to work. Like he was telling us on the way to work in the
Shoot
cab.
surreptitious
He'll
photos.
shoot
of people.
photos of everything. Yeah,
Yeah. It seems very relaxing.
he's never without a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you ever see him at shows,
Yeah. Just push him out of the way. You're the
Hey, it's my
you're the
turn.
boss.
Start a turf
This
war
is
with
my
Trayvon
turf.
Free is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
No, but it just popped in my head.
Yeah, that's right. We had him
But
on.
thank you so much. This
Yeah.
was wonderful.
Thanks, Mindy.
for taking time out of your monk schedule.
Yeah. Stay
busy,
busy, everybody.
Cause I'm busy. Whenever I get with her, say I'm busy. And I'm gonna hit you later cause I'm busy. Busy with her.